I don't know what the tone is for that. It's like in every YouTube video. Hold on. The water is hot. Okay. All right. It's been a week. I hope everyone's doing well. A little check-in. How y'all doing? Y'all doing good? Oh, I said, talking to no one, but looking at the camera. Oh, I made a mistake. One moment, please. That was, so I know in videos it's like, oh, that was barely a second. That actually took me a long time to figure out. Like, I had the wrong script. Anyway, let's get started. Today I wanted to share about the victories I had against my African parents. Now, you see, like most people know, like a lot of African parents can be very controlling, and growing up, you tend to have little to no agency. Like, it's very much whatever your parents say is what you're going to do. I wouldn't find out till much later in life that a lot of people like had the cheat code where it's like, yeah, your parents are going to try and control you as much as possible. You need to find your own body autonomy. I wouldn't know that till much later. But that didn't mean that I was completely devoid of, personal autonomy, body autonomy. While I thought I very much had to do everything my African parents said, I still had some agency of my own. And you'll see in these stories how clever, how smart I am. All right, let's get started. So first is the little TV victory. So growing up, when we were in school, it was the rule that from Monday through Thursday, we were never allowed to watch TV. We were only allowed to watch TV on the weekend. So Friday after school, we could watch TV. With the exceptions, like if it was cold weather, you could watch the news in the morning, etc. But anyway, we could only watch TV during the weekend, my siblings and I. So around a certain time period when we had cable in the house, I was on punishment. Let's just say I had done something that had warranted punishment. Again, saving it for the memoirs. However, African parents have a tendency to pretend you don't exist or put you in isolation when you're in punishment, which I think is weird. I mean, I'm not saying that I shouldn't be punished for the things I did wrong. It's just, rather than actually teach me actions have consequences, you just ignore my existence altogether. But anyway, so on this specific day, I remember it was a Sunday and the entire family was going to church, but I, not having anyone to take me to church because both parents had decided I didn't exist, was staying home. So I remember I was literally in my room watching as the family was leaving for church, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go watch TV. Now here's the thing, Monday through Friday, yes, the rule is we're not allowed to watch TV unless it's the weekend. However, I'm on punishment. If I'm caught watching TV, it is grounds for an immediate ass whooping. And my siblings and I had gotten in trouble often enough when we were caught watching TV when we were supposed to, because our African parent would feel the heat from the TV and be like, you guys were watching TV, there's no disputing this evidence. So I had all this in my mind. At this specific point in time, the church we went to, I was pretty privy to the timeline that we had. So I knew that at church, we usually didn't leave for church for let's say 9:30, almost close to 10. Church lasted up until 2 o'clock, and we wouldn't get home up until 2:45 or so. So yes, 10 a.m., the family's finally leaving for church, or so, approximately. I don't remember exactly, but approximately, the family's leaving for church. And I've determined I am going to watch TV. But my brain is like, hold on, wait. Okay, we're going to watch TV, but we need to be smart about this, because if they come home and they found you were watching TV, I'm not trying to obtain an ass whooping. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set an alarm clock on our Hello Kitty alarm clock. So you're going to watch TV for a good 2.5 hours. And then once that alarm clock goes off, by the time they come back, the TV would have long cooled down and you're all set. Perfect. So I set my alarm clock. So if it's 10 o'clock, I set it for 1:30. I don't push it past 1:30. I'm giving myself grace. I go to the living room. I sit myself down on the couch. I make myself comfortable. I make a note of where I found the remote. I pick it up, I make a note. I turn on the TV and I make a note of what channel we're on. Okay. and I start to enjoy myself. I'm watching like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm watching like Hey Arnold. I'm watching Arthur. I'm having the time of my life. I go and make myself a little snack in the kitchen. I am enjoying myself. But then the alarm clock rings. So I'm like, okay, shut everything down now. Turn off the TV, put the remote back where I found it, change the channel, make sure I change the channel, put the remote back where I found it. Left no evidence that I was in the living room whatsoever, washed all the dishes I had used. I went back to my room and I probably started doing my math homework that was due on Monday or whatever. The family comes home and I hear them bustling around in the other half of the house while I'm, in my room / prison cell. And I hear the African parent say, "Let me touch the TV to see if it was hot." And I have the biggest smile on my face because I'm just like, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Touch the TV. Let me know if it was hot. Oh, man. And whenever I think about that, I'm just like, I did that shit. Oh, it's so embarrassing. Okay. All right. What was the other stories I wanted to tell? Okay, the report card. Oh, so this was a fight for my life. All right. A little sip. Sippity sip. So, the report card. To preface this story, there's a bit of prologue. My older sibling had come home with a D on a test. Not their permanent grade, a D on a test. And let's just say there was fire on the mountain in that household. I remember everything I experienced that night. All I can say is that was my Vietnam type energy. That's all I can really say about it for now. Memoirs. So I remember that night, it had gotten to the point where I started to cry because I really did not really know how to comprehend what was going on. There was so much energy, so much emotion in that household. And my African parent even tried to punish me for crying, and I had to make up some lie like, I was worried about my grade, that's why I was crying. And it turns out it would be true because I should have been worried about my grade. Now here's the thing, I'm in the 6th grade at this point in time, and I'm not that great at science. I just am not great at science. But that is going to be an issue because the African parent, their favorite subject is science. And if I, their African child, is not good at science, they're not gonna find my body. Yikes. So at this point in time, I remember report cards were given to you at school. So of course, me wanting to survive, I take my report card and I'm on the bus. I open up my report card. And I have a D in science. Immediately I flash back to how I saw my older sibling getting the shit beat out of them for a letter. And I was like, I'm not going out like that. Immediately my brain is like, all right, let's come up with a plan. So again, funnily enough, this story involves yet another church. So at this point in time, we were going to another church. Yeah, we were going to another church. Yes, I remember. Okay, so we were going to another church, and at this specific church, it was in like an office building, and we occupied like a conference space or something like that. Or something. I can't describe it specifically, but like it was the basement of some office building. And at the front, like to enter, you have to enter through the office building, obviously, and there was a secretary's desk, and then there was a stairs that led to the basement, that led to the basement where the church was. And we kids, when we would have our own Sunday school, we would always mess with like the secretary's stuff, always messing with her stuff, looking through her drawers. Like I'm assuming it's a she, but I think it was a she because she had a few like funny little knickknacks that. Anyway, we would mess with her stuff, and we were told countless times to stop doing this. And I would make a note of like, I would notice things that were in her desk, like she had whiteout and she had all these other things, things that I would eventually need. So I'm on the bus, and I'm like, I have a D in science. I'm gonna die. My brain is like, we're not going out like that. So at church, we're gonna wait till Sunday, right? Put this report card in your Bible. We're gonna wait till Sunday. Sunday, we're going to get to that secretary's desk. We're going to find that whiteout. We're going to white out our grade. And then we're going to be Gucci gang. All right. Plan is set. So I remember Sunday came along. I'm on a mission. So I eventually, like, all the kids are sent to do their Sunday school stuff. And I'm like, oh, excuse me, I need to, like, use the bathroom. I wasn't a kid that again, it was uncommon for me to get in trouble, but that doesn't mean I never got in trouble. So I wasn't a kid that was like, that people were suspicious of, if anything. They're like, oh, you're going to the bathroom, you're going to the bathroom. I was not going to the bathroom. I run to that secretary's desk, I find her whiteout, I bring out my report card, and I'm like, cover, remove the evidence. But I'm not done yet, because yes, now the D is not visible, but an adult needs to see this report card. And from my other video, parent A was the strict one, parent B was the easygoing African parent. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna show this report card to parent B, so that if it ever comes up, oh, where's your report card? Parent B can vouch that, yes, I saw the report card. That is the evidence they're going to provide for me. So after I finish my mission, I wait till like Monday evening, and I'm like, parent B, here's my report card. Do you see it? Do you see the report card? Do you see that I'm doing well? Just ignore science. You ain't gotta worry about it. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And that's how I would cover my tracks. I was not trying to go out for no letter. And like, I remember after that, I would work so hard to like make sure I could maintain a good grade in science, even though I just wasn't good at science. But I was like, it's a matter of survival, so let's get a good grade. I would eventually have to do that for every other report card I received that year. And again, we were still going to that church, so I was able to cover my tracks relatively well. Dodge that aspirin. Ooh, okay. Gotta take a little sip. I'm just doing it for the sound effects. I'm being silly. All right, the last story. This story is very significant because this wouldn't be a victory I obtained on my own. It would be a victory I obtained with my friends. My friends from high school. Again, a lot to say for the memoirs. I'll just say that they were the people I needed at that point in time. I just didn't know it fully. I wasn't very good at making deep connections with people. That was something on my end. That was nobody else's fault. My fault. But anyway, prom night. So it's prom and I'm super excited. I look beautiful. I mean, I am beautiful. But this was the first night in my adolescence that I ever felt beautiful. And it was gonna be a fun night. I was gonna be going with my friends. I didn't have a date or anything. I wanted to predominantly PWI, so I wasn't obviously gonna have a date. And the actual person that, anyway, that's a whole other story. So it's prom night. And my African parent, my strict African parent, parent A, is just like, yeah, you need to be home by 10:30. The doors to prom probably open at like 9 o'clock. So they really said you can go for 1 hour and then you have to come back. And half of that is travel time. And I remember just thinking, okay. Because again, I thought I had to do everything this parent told me I had to do. However, I was in luck. Now, you see, my African parent, both of them worked nights. And they had tried to get out of working nights, specifically the night I was going to prom, but unfortunately they weren't able to. Oh no, that sucks. So it was instructed that I had to take the phone that I shared with my younger sibling with me, and then we had to go to prom, to prom. Sure, whatever. We take, the evening begins, we take pictures, and then we go to my friend's house, we take pictures there, we go out to eat, we get to prom, we're having a grand old time. I am getting compliments left and right. People are like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty. And because I didn't know how to take a compliment at the time, this is how I reacted. Hey, thanks. Yes, my dumbass did some finger guns because I didn't know how to take a compliment. But pushing that to the side, the night is ongoing, and it gets to a point where, my African parent had to leave for work, and they were calling to make sure that I was on my way home. Now, you see, at this point in time, me and my friends, we did have a table, but we had left our stuff on the table, and we were walking around having a good time. I was dancing the night away. I was taking pictures. I was having a good time. Now, here's the error I had made. My African parent had one of my friend's phone numbers. That was the mistake I decided to make. And I would never again make that mistake after an incident in college. But I was in luck. You see, this specific friend, I didn't even tell her what was going on. I didn't even communicate with her whatsoever, but she had my back So we reconvene at some point in the night. It is probably well past 11 o'clock at this point, maybe even 12. And I see my phone has a bunch of missed calls. And I'm just like, ooh, yikes. I can feign to say that I'm asleep, if anything. Oh, I was asleep, so I didn't see the call. So I see the phone and I'm like, oh. So my friend tells me, oh, your parent called me. And I'm like, oh, my parent called you? He's like, yeah, but when I answered, I told them that I didn't know where you were and that you were on your way home. You're a real one. You're a real one. I didn't tell my friend to say none of that. I didn't tell my friend, homegirl just had my back. And forever, if this friend ever needed anything from me, I'm gonna be there in a minute. Like, thank you so much. I had a great time at prom. Of course, I didn't get a date. I didn't have the high school prom where you meet the boy or whatever and then fall in love. I didn't have none of that shit. But I did have a good time with my friends. And it was just nice to know that my friend had my back. Oh, sorry. But anyway, yeah, those are the 3 stories I have, the little victories I had against the African parent. And even the smallest victories reminded me that I had some agency, even when I was under strict control. The thing is, parenting shouldn't be about winning or dominating your children. It should be about raising a person. I think far too often parents are like, oh, I want to have a baby, forgetting full well that baby is going to become a person. You're not raising a baby, you're raising a person. You're not having a doll, you're eventually going to have a whole grown ass person. I went off on a tangent, but what I was trying to say is about raising a person, teaching responsibility, and encouraging communication, and also building trust. A child who begins to hide their action is a very much red flag and a warning sign to parents. A child who can be honest even when they make mistakes, that is how you make sure your children are growing. Parenting should be about a partnership, not a battle. You have to listen to your children and grow and learn and help with them, not just telling them what to do constantly. Yes, when a child is from 0 to 7, yes, there are certain boundaries and certain things that you have to tell them. But at a certain point, you need to start to listen to your children. Anyway, growing up, mistakes didn't just bring consequence. It also brought this level of fear and isolation that really would impact me up until adulthood. The house would be quiet, doors would be closed, and I would feel invisible. That fear didn't teach me responsibility or understanding. It taught me how to hide. It taught me how to be sneaky. And in all honesty, it taught me how to almost never ask for help, which is a story I'll probably tell for another day. Using silence as a punishment will disconnect yourself from your children rather than actually trying to guide them. You just assuming that you know everything and everything you do is right. Who is that going to help? Because even you made mistakes. I'm talking to African parents at this point in time. So the lesson to take away is you need to allow your children to make mistakes because they're going to make mistakes. I should not have to think about the little victories I had against my African parent. I should look at it as more like, oh, these are mistakes I made when I was a child, but here's how me and my parents were able to make it through. We talked about things. We understand boundaries, all this stuff. I'm not saying they didn't warrant punishment, here's the consequence to your action. But it doesn't, treating your child like they don't exist is not a punishment. That is a silent treatment. That's a toxic type of behavior. It's the reason why a lot of us still do it to our friends and loved ones today because, we don't know how to communicate. If you want a better approach, I understand that your emotions can get heightened when your child does something that you particularly like. Why would you choose to do that? So maybe you take a pause when emotions begin to run high. Asking African parents to have emotional intelligence. And you have to talk through the behaviors and why, and explain why, and why you're upset. Explain why things matter, but still remind your children that, hey, even though you made this mistake, because everyone makes mistakes, you're going to learn and grow from it so that you know what to do for next time. This will be a stepping stone for you. Remind them that you love them and that you'll work through things together. Mistakes should be a lesson, not a reason to withdraw love. But yeah, anyway, I hope that made sense. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, maybe watch another one, and follow me and subscribe. Click the like button. Help me on this algorithm, please. All right, stay tuned.